Hi. This is trans and politics. So we are trans people, and we're going to talk politics. So I see never ending me to just join. So we're gonna just start off by introducing ourselves to all these amazing people and ask that they share this live and ask that they please be kind and gentle with us in the comments. We're gonna say how we feel and what we think. It may not always align up with what you think, but let us have that. Okay? Like that. So, I'll start. My name is Shia Diamond. I'm a singer, songwriter, just a regular, degular type of chick. I really don't mess with politics, but I feel like in this particular climate, we have to. And so I'm not going to be silent in this hour. I'm going to talk about stuff. I'm going to raise hell in the shadows. Like, whoo, I know you see me, honey. You know, my vote matters. So that's who I am.
Who's going next? Should I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Shia, for inviting all of us and bringing us together. I really appreciate it. My name is Billy Lee. I go by she, hers, hers are my pronouns. And as of right now, I am producing a couple projects for TV and Lionsgate. And I'm not really into politics either, but I feel like it's such a time right now where we have to be. We're kind of forced into that, even though it feels uncomfortable. And for me, you know, it's just really getting people to vote, supporting the Postal Service, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Marquise.
One doesn't go, I'll go. I'm never really Nina. I'm a singer-songwriter, entertainer, vocalist, all of the things. I am, to say that I'm into politics, I might be on the grassroots level to where I know what's happening in my said community. I know what needs to be done. I'm on the front lines doing that. And so if that is considered in the realm of politics, then yes, I am. I know how dire it is for us as a community to be knowledgeable, hashtag being a knowledge of those things and how we use that to our advantage. I was thinking this morning of like, there's no more fronting on what I need and want from my community. And if those candidates can provide those things, not even if, you will provide those things because we will showcase to you of how our power is used. And so that's my mental going forward.
I love your mental going forward. How about that?
I'll jump on and go next. Hi, everybody. I'm Blossom C. Brown. I'm an actress, producer, writer, motivational speaker, activist, professional tarot reader, and magician. You know, when it comes to politics, we're kind of forced into it, to be honest with you. We're kind of intersectioned into politics. Politics kind of has affected our everyday life. And, you know, if you don't care about politics, 2020 has been the year to make you care about it, because some way, fashion, shape, or form, you have been affected by it. And so, you know, we're definitely in a political circus right now. And the reality of it is, I do believe we're all pawns in a chess game. And it's just, we just got to see how this all plays out. And so I think it's just important for all of us to be vocal about how we're feeling and let everybody know that we're not here for the silliness.
I agree. We're not here for the silliness, honey. You better say that.
I guess I can go next. I am Lala Zanel. My pronouns I got as Queen Sister, and today I'm just simply Lala. No organizations, no antics, just me, so I can be raw and unapologetic with me. You know, talking about the things you do is great, but being in the world that I am, when you wear certain hats, there's a certain way that you have to show up. And so I did not want to show up in my ACLU hat today. And so I just want to show up in my authentic self and to have those raw conversations, because when I take off the hat, I have to live those real experiences. As far as my work, I have been organizing ever since I was a 15-year-old child in Detroit, Michigan, trying to navigate going to school, being who I was, find loopholes in systems, from beating the trade's ass every day up the street to make it possible for girls to be able who they are today. And so just that is a part of your activism. Trans folks are activists every single day. When you go into the bathroom, when you take a bus, when you move anywhere where you have to explain yourself or fight for space, that is activism, that is politics, because you're politicking how to survive and move through that. And so I think particularly us as Black and brown folks need to stop being scared of politics and really understanding what politics are. Particularly when I was in school, one of my favorite classes was government, because it taught me how to get through loopholes, and it taught me so many things. But some of us are afraid of those things. But now when you get older, you wish you paid attention, because all these things are happening where you need to learn and understand how to change those systems. Yes, those systems
Three
are
branches
corrupt.
of government, all this stuff that I
But if
hear.
if we're not at the table, if we're not challenging that, if we're not positioning people who are able to change those systems, then we are also standing by and participating actively in white supremacy and in a patriarchal world. It is our duty to break up those systems, and we have shown that with Andrea Jenkins and so many other people who have ran for politics, that we can be a part of this change that we want to see. We just have to teach our folks how to navigate that. It's harder, but it's possible. Anything is possible. And I think 2020 has showed us so many possibilities when people are living in a pandemic, and we're like, we're trans, we've been in a pandemic. And so just showing folks that welcome to our oppression. And so I'm excited to be here with all these, individuals, some chosen family, some I'm just meeting. I'm just hoping that we can enter that conversation I offer to be your raw and authentic self and not worry about organization or anything, because there's people out there that look at us for that rawness, and that we are possibility models, each of us in our trans self, to someone else to say, oh, it's possible for me because I've seen all of you.
With that being said, follow this amazing cast. I have them here for a reason, so you should definitely be following them. Their brilliance, their work they're doing in the community and beyond, who they are as people. They're extraordinary. So these are extraordinary trans people, and I want you all to meet them and to have conversations with them as well. So everyone's free to comment as well, and we'll answer them as we go, as we see them. Yeah. So we got the next person, brother.
Marquise, do you want to go?
I was trying. No, please. I was trying to have manners and allow room for space, so I can wait. It's always fun.
Boy, I ain't had that in a long time. Somebody making space for a sister, Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey,
definitely appreciate it.
Hey, it's Amara. I joined late. I'm sorry about that. What's the question?
We're just introducing.
Oh, okay. Just introducing ourselves. Okay. All right. I can do that. I can introduce myself. My name is Amara Jones. My pronouns are she and hers. I am a journalist and the founder and creator of Translash Media, which is a journalism and storytelling project centering the issues and the stories of trans people of color. So many of you, several of you, I have already had the chance to speak to in various ways, and hope to do so with the rest of you as our project continues to unfold. It's also great to see so many of you for the first time. This is the first time I think I've seen Lala virtually even since 2019, Shia, I think February.
Yeah.
And like Lala, I want to echo that it's so great to get to see Blossom. I also saw in February. So it's so good to see many of you and to know you for the first time. I am so happy to be involved in this conversation. I'm going to do a quick plug before I just say something. Actually, this week on Thursday, the 20th, the Translash podcast, which I'm hosting, is dropping. And our first interview, our conversation, is going to center Andrea Jenkins to get her take on politics and where we are. So I hope that all of you all will subscribe to that. Super excited to talk to her. It'll be the same.
Yes, we will.
It drops the same day as Joe Biden is going to speak, so it's going to be super exciting. So even as I'm a journalist now, actually, I thought that my first life was going to be in politics. Actually, before I transitioned, my first job out of graduate school was actually in politics. I worked in DC, I worked in the executive branch and in the legislative branch. So in many of ways, this conversation is kind of a coming home for me. I think that as trans people, we have to be involved in politics because our lives are inherently political, right? Just our existence is a political act. Just the declaration of ourselves and who we are and what we want is a political act. It goes back to what Lala was saying, like literally walking down the street as a trans person is a political act. So we have to be involved in politics. And even if people don't think that we should be involved in politics, politics thinks that it should be involved in us. You know, that's why we have currently, you know, in 23 states across the country, anti-trans bills are pending. We have an administration that has made war on us, and in many ways, I'm sure that we're going to unpack. So regardless of whether or not we think that we're political, regardless of whether or not we think politics matters, politics thinks that we do, and it has decided to center us and our bodies and our existence and our lives in the conversation. So consequently, we have to be involved in politics, right? We don't really have a choice. And for people who think that they do, I don't understand. And I really hope that this conversation with so many different people from different parts of our community and given your voice, Shia, can help to galvanize us. Because one last thing that I don't know if you all saw, but it was that if every trans person registered to vote in the 3 states where Trump won, if those people registered to vote and voted, Trump would not be president. We're talking just 45,000 people. Wow. It's not that many, right? Yeah. And so like, that's it. So like, we do have political power. We need to exercise it because if we don't, our lives are on the line. Our lives are at stake.
And we have to bring it back to show them how trans people fight in these streets. I don't know if they know because they hear this narrative that we out here being killed or we being beat, but we fight back, goddammit. And so we fight back in this arena. We're in the streets. You know, I don't think there's one set way for us to combat, you know, the problems that we go through. We get in the streets and we riot and we protest. But then we have to be on the front line as well. So I've known all of you from the front lines and beyond. So I know the power that we have. I've seen my community just from Facebook alone. There were problematic people that had said some things. Some cis, straight men that had said some very problematic things. Some gay men that had said some problematic things. And I've watched my trans community strip them of their job, of their accounts. I've watched the power of what we can do when we're focused and when when our lives are at stake. And so right now we're fighting for our lives. So I want the next person to do this. I don't want to just talk and because
Okay, hi everyone. I am Shayla. I am from Los Angeles. My pronouns are queen, she, and her. I operate Unique Women's Coalition. We are a Black trans collective in Southern California, where trans folks gather united in efforts to elevate our Black trans culture in Southern California. So I am blessed to be the president of this historic company because we are first of its kind where we come from. And I'm not really into politics, but like many of you said, we are sort of in an environment where we are forced to be. And so I have a long history of mobilizing community, and I'm hoping that I could learn so much more from this conversation so that I could be more helpful to activate our own. I realize that it is an important time for us to show up, and that's exactly what I'm doing here for this conversation, showing up so that I could learn and so that I could be a better leader and so I could find different ways to activate our community. So I thank you, Shia, for having me, and I'm ready for the conversation.
Yes.
I'm Marquise Wilson Balenciaga, transactor. Sometimes I model. More specifically, my passion is that of an activist. I'm very grassroots. I'm old school that way. Um, I don't know that I would say that I believe in the political system and movement. I'm a little bit more radical. I stand on the side of, quite honestly, dismantling it all, especially as I further examine the institutions that exist. Thinking about the Constitution, any particular portion of like government sector, these are not things specifically for Black and Brown folk, and definitely not spaces that speak to trans folk. I examine that especially through the prison system, the prison industrial complex, and looking at how that system starts with slave catching turned now into policing the way that we see it. So when we see Black and Brown, people of color, of our communities in prison, trans folk, the most marginalized communities, well, part of the reason why is the system is doing exactly what it's intended to do. So I don't necessarily know that I believe in systemic change in the way of like trying to infiltrate more than I believe in breaking down the system entirely. But I do respect what it means to be understanding of what politics are, and like policing, well, not policing, but policy change, and who those game changers are, people who are trying to ground level do that work. So I'm always in tune and I'm paying attention to that, but I'm way more of an activist than anything. So, and thank you, Shia, for having this space and creating this space.
Thank you so much for always showing up. It's nothing like when you call a man and he show up. You call a man and he show up. This man has always showed up. Every time I call, I say, hey, I need you. I say, what you need? What do I need to do? I love that. And so that's what I would love to see in our community, because that's what I try to bring to the community, is a sense that we have a sense of trust, a sense of commitment to ourselves and to our cause. And it doesn't matter if we agree with each other at the end of the day, whether we fell out 15 years ago. When it comes time, just like family, it's time for us to put that mess to the side, and it's time for us to get to business. Just like you wouldn't bring that mess to work. If you had to work with somebody who you didn't like, you're going to put on that face and you're going to do your job. So now it's time for us to put on our face and do our job. It's time for us to start rallying. While that man was trying to build walls, it's time for us as a community to start building bridges to make sure all of us can get across, not just some. So it's very important that we all have followers. Somebody always said, girl, why you always advocating for followers? Because we all need followers. Why we need followers? Because we have a message that needs to be out there to the masses. So what's out there right now isn't something that's sustainable. It isn't something that is empowering. It isn't something that's building connections. It's something that's breaking us down. And so I would love to see people just start to follow these people within the panel. Start here, but don't stop there. Find trans people within your community, those that have positive messages, those that are have their own businesses, those who are in the political arena, those who are journalists, because we know right now what's happening with our journalists. And so they're under fire right now. It's because they're telling the actual truth of what's happening. And so they're being silenced, just like they want to silence us. And I think we've been that thorn, in their side for a while now, because we haven't given up. So, when he attacks us, we come right back stronger than ever. So we're under fire right now. So we're trying to figure out who are our accomplices. Now we know that Miss Thang, Miss Camilla, Miss Kamala Harris, Miss Kamala Harris, honey, that she has a sordid past. She wasn't always on the side of trans people. But don't just come for Miss Kamala, honey, because she wasn't the only one. No. And you coming for Joe Biden for some stuff that happened in 1977. And you know that man is halfway awkward when it comes to stuff. So if he do something, if he hugs you too long, you don't need no arm by it. That's an old man.
No.
No, girl, no.
What?
See, and that is why I came on here to be simply Lala. Because what we're not going to do is, what we're not going to do is,
Everybody's face was like,
I still stand in the same position I was when Trump got elected. Hillary and her husband did lots of damage to people of color and that prison system. Trump just pushed the door open all the way. But at the end of the day, she was the lesser of two evils, right? And at the end of the day, I couldn't vote for Trump, and I stand the same today, right? So my thing is, yes, we've known that they've caused harm. Where I stand, Peter Pan could have showed up, and they could have said Mickey Mouse and Elmo was showing up, and I was voting for them. But my thing is this. Also, us as Black people, this is still historic that there was a Black woman on the tickets. And just like all of our Black folks that harm us and do this horrible things that they do to us, like I'm rooting for everyone Black. And I just hope that she has the right folks around her to anchor that change, to shift the way that she thinks. And that also to understand that she's going into a system that's already been established that way. Skip dismantling it, skip breaking it, pull the whole root up. To fix something, you have to do the foundation. That whole 400-year foundation must be burnt with new soil and built again by the people, and have the people that are impacted to build it back up. But since we got to deal with them too, we're going to deal with them too, but we have more power to hold them accountable, because can't nobody hold Trump accountable.
Nobody. Nobody.
So we need to leave people in there that we can say, hey, your politics are effed up, but I ain't gonna throw you away. But here's how you maneuver that. I do believe with them and with both of them in place, that some things will shift. And anybody knows it does take two terms to fix anything.
Yes.
And so Obama got nothing done. Everything was an executive order. And a lot of stuff that Trump did was executive orders too. And so we need people who will actually make federal trans laws, like the Supreme Court case that trans folks and LGBT folks cannot be fired for who they are. And then what did he do? Sign an executive order to say taking away health care and all that other craziness. So what the message should be, we need more federal protections and also state and local protections. That's where we miss the mark. Everybody thinks you vote for the president, I've done the work. No, you got to vote your judges, your district attorney, your sheriff, all that, your school board.
We got 4 seats right now that we need.
Yeah.
We need four of those Senate seats. So we need to be trying to advocate for those 4 seats. We need to make sure that we're informing our people. We need to find out who it is and where we need to send people. So it's easy. All we need is 4 seats. All we need is 4 seats. And then the
actually, we need more than 4 seats, because some people have forgot. I need all those people that decided that he should not be impeached. They have to go too. Because for you to sit in there under that administration and vote that he should not be impeached, you are also racist and you're also part of the problem. So that whole minute, all the people that voted he should not be impeached, they all gotta go.
You better come through.
They all gotta go. They all gotta go.
I need Simply Lala to show up, honey, in these streets. That's who I need to show up.
Can I just say one thing? I just wanted to say that I think that if people are constantly looking for a perfect candidate or a perfect person to figure out whether or not they should participate in the system or not, then I don't know what to tell you, because that's not life. There's nobody with an unfinished.
I may have to charge back in the day with transphobia.
Right. So consequently, if nobody is perfect, then we are in the realm of choosing who's better and who's not, right? And that's really the choice. And I think that one of the things is that people got to live out for the last 4 years what Lala was alluding to, which is that, oh, Trump's bad and Hillary's not perfect, so neither of them matters, so it doesn't matter who gets elected. Well, we've had 4 years of that, and there are more people who are dead than not because he's in office. right? It literally was a matter of life and death for people. So now we get to rerun the experiment, right?
It's the number one cause of death in America right now.
Yeah, and
The
so
number one
therefore,
cause of death right
and
now.
also for our community, I'm not gonna recite all the crimes because everybody knows what they are. But I think that so therefore we're back to where we started, right? We have people who are better and people who are worse. And anyone who is anyone who thinks that the point of American politics is to have someone that you love and who's perfect. Again, I don't know what civics you learned in high school, but that's not the country that we live in. Honestly, that's not the world we live in, right? You're choosing people who are going to be better for your life or worse, not perfect for your life or not perfect. That's not the choice.
Yeah.
And so on this particular case, Kamala Harris also on this particular point has got a mixed record, right? It's not totally bad and it's not totally good.
No.
It's a mixed record.
She had two,
right?
It's a mixed.
I'm talking about on trans stuff, and I'm talking about on trans stuff. It's a mixed record. There's some stuff that she did with retraining police and mandating a whole host of things on them getting right on how they would deal with trans people and whatever. And then stuff that she did on prisons, and then on the stuff on prisons.
It was two trans women. She wouldn't allow them to get their surgery.
That's right. And then she has since said that she didn't. That what she did was
he held her accountable.
That's right.
When I talked to her and I snatched her up on CNN.
Yeah.
Now the thing is I couldn't breathe the same air Miss Thing was breathing at the time.
What do you mean?
I couldn't breathe the same air she was breathing. Like when I met Beyonce, I was breathing the same air she breathed. I couldn't be in the same room with that woman when I found out everything she had done. And so I walked out of the CNN event. And it was when our sister, Angelica Ross, came and she was like, I think you need to talk to her.
Yeah.
And so she pulled up to the side and I aired out all my concerns. She held herself accountable. If you look at her record now and what she's done, when I actually have my note, but I left it in the other room about the panic defense.
Yes.
So she fought heavily with that because a lot of the murders were being cleaned because they said, okay, I had a panic thing. I didn't know she was trans. I had a panic. He tried to holler at me. He's a gay man. So I killed him. They said, okay, it's fine. We totally understand. So that work that she did with that, I find that to be absolutely commendable. And if she's continued with that same energy that she's given, because she's citing Trump for not doing that. And so, I know she's not going to get into office and do the same thing. I know she's not going to, because she know we're going to snatch them edges.
Right, and one last thing is
snatch them edges. And so I say, give her an opportunity, give her a chance to fuck up first.
I agree.
I think she's fucked up already. But see, that's the thing though, because again, she was very harmful to the trans community, especially in the prison industrial complex. And a lot of our trans siblings will not forget that, number one.
But
so they would never trust her.
Though?
And the reality of it is,
what about Trump and that same energy?
But see, at the same time, though, especially here for the trans community here in California specifically, she has done a lot of harm. Yes, she's trying to heal, and we want that. She's trying to do work. She's trying to implement that, and that's wonderful. But the reality of it is, we have a community here that's scoring from it. And so it's pretty much strategy versus accountability. The strategy is get Kamala and Joe into the White House, and like Lala was saying earlier, be able to hold their asses to the fire, hold them accountable to make sure that trans rights
at the table, or we're on the freaking menu, so we can have all that talking because we know they're.
But the reality of it is, though, trans rights have been taken away. And this is what a lot of people are not talking about. As this movement, this Black Lives Matter movement has risen out of the ashes. First of all, let me say this. The Black Lives Matter movement is not a trend. This is our everyday lived experience. This was not something that was hip or cool for the moment. This is our life, number one. For all y'all that thought that this was cute to jump on the Black Lives Matter trend, and then when July came, all of y'all disappeared. Like y'all, like nothing happened. It was not a trend, okay? The reality of it is, as the Black Lives Matter movement rose, intersectionality was a bitch to all Black trans people because number one, we're having to fight for our Blackness within the Black movement to acknowledge the existence of Black trans people. And then number two, we're constantly having to fight with cis people about trans rights, about our existence as trans people. And the reality of it is we get thrown crumbs and we think we have to settle for those crumbs when we deserve full course fucking meals. I'm over it. I'm kind of over it. What Marquise was talking about being radical, I always say there's kind of like two types of activists. Activists that when they don't see themselves represented, they go out and create their own shit. And other radicals like Fannie Lou Hamer that would say, well, if we're not going to get it, you ain't going to have it either. And we're going to go tear up your shit. Tear it down and you're going to understand that we're not here for it. Now, with Kamala being the first, I think she's in a place of power. I think she's in a place to make change. I believe in redemption. I'm not going to hold that against her, but I'm going to hold her even more accountable, making sure that the rights that trans people get those healthcare protections back, that trans people can go into a homeless shelter and feel like that they don't, it shouldn't be about their gender identity because Ben Carson fucked that up. That's the reality of being trans in our world today. And so we have a responsibility to make sure that Joe and Kamala are held accountable, to make sure that those things are put back, that we're giving those back, and that we move forward. But the reality of it is, how are we going to do that? It's about strategy at this point. Strategy to get them in the White House, and then accountability to hold their asses to the fire.
I mean, and that, and that is great. But I also want to remind people, like, that is one piece of the strategy, and that's like one piece of the government, right? So we can talk about how we don't want Kamala Harris in there. We can talk about how bad Trump is, but let's rewind. If you're not having that conversation with your mama, your transphobic bodega owner, your school, in the LGBT movement about anti-Blackness and the erasure of trans women of color, if we're not starting there, what they gonna do ain't gonna matter. We have so many other bridges to cross. There are one part of that bridge. We have to start with ourselves. Yes. We have to start community-based. And I always believe with that. People always ask me, oh my gosh, I see the trans woman of color died. What should I do? Change your behavior. Change the behavior of your friends and show up in the neighborhoods where you live at and make sure that it's safe for them there. When you see a trans person, don't just look at them. Make sure they're safe and ask them what do they need. And so I think we're really good at pushing out the top head, but not looking at what we can do, what our neighborhoods can do, what our local governments can do. And so I think that's also part of the strategy. You call your local government and say, no matter where it goes, if Trump is there or not, as my legislator, this is what I need you to do on the Hill. As my council member, this is what I need you to do on the Hill. As my DA, I don't want you to prosecute my sister for solicitation. And so there are things that we can do before we get there. And so as we're targeting that road, we have to also get all this stuff in the middle. And that includes us as trans folks. We all have to get on the same page. And stop this image of boxing us all in. Because we're all beautiful on this call. And I bet you if I had one-on-one conversations, we all have a different trans experience. We all were taught different. We all have different values. We all have different faith. Doesn't mean I don't love you all or I'm going to be mad at you, but it means it shows that you have your own mind. And so my thing is, how can we collectively live in this bubble together without taking apart trans men, trans women, non-binary people? That should not matter. But the access to things should be the same. The liberation should be the same. But this idea that to package us all together and say, oh, yeah, I went to a training. That is trans. No. That was a non-binary person that you met, and that was their experience. Because when they meet us, particularly as influencers, like, I've seen Shayla Marquise and Billy Lee, so I know everything about trans. I've seen their Instagram, and now I'm ready to be an ally. No, there's so much more you need to do because they share their experience and what they're dealing with. And so you have to understand that each trans person is different, and that's what they don't get. Because we're so complex, they can't boggle it, but they try to package it. This is trans. That's why Trump had that full memo. Talk about what you can see is trans. You can't pick out trans because there are cis women that fit that same thing.
You better talk about it.
I got some aunties that would get kicked out the shelter because of those standards. I got some aunties that fit that. No shade.
Right.
And so we can't package that. And so when folks start humanizing us and not just saying number 20 is dead, but when you say another trans woman died and she was, she had a family that loved her and a community that loved her, and she was trying to go to school and do XYZ, and this is wrong, what are we going to do? It makes it a little harder to erase somebody just saying number 22, number 25. And that's all we become is numbers and no narrative. And so because we're influencers, we've been able to create those narratives. Where I'm 42, before that, it was a trans girl was dead and that was it. There was no rally, there was no Facebook post, there was no going to the police department, the police will laugh at you. Okay, get up out of here. Now, we need to start being on how we want our cases to be investigated. It's up to us to what does that process look like? What does healing look like for us? What does it mean for leaders to every day show up in its trauma? And then what does it mean for a leader to shut it off and be okay with shutting it off and not be judged for it? Because the work is hard. I have dealt with more deaths in my life than my birth family. And I'm 42. I had more deaths in community than in my birth family. And so when death happens in my family, I'm like, because it's like I'm so tired of it. So it's just like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So it makes me immune to it, and we should not be immune to our folks dying like that. We should not be immune to that at all.
I think the people that don't have it, I think when you use this stuff, make sure your intent is there. I know working with UWC is another organization that I work with. I want to make personally within myself. I want to make sure that my intent is there. And so when I show up in any space representing me, representing my community, I want to make sure that I'm doing the work that's going to help somebody after me. I might take the blow and the brunt of it because certain things are not in place right now, but I do believe that the work that I'm doing with organizations, within myself, allows for that next generation that's coming, that they don't have to worry about the stigmas, the stereotypes, the discrimination of when I'm trying to access medical care, when I'm trying to go get housing, when I'm trying to get a job just like everyone else. And so that's my thing that I always make sure I do a checklist for myself, is that I make sure my intent is there to say, oh, it's not my ego. I don't need to get on this panel just you can see my beautiful face. I need you to hear my words or get into the message of what I'm trying to instill to somebody who might not have never seen this vast array of beautiful trans people in their lives. And so, and to understand, like Lala said, everyone, if you sit in your own personal space, has their own personal views. But collectively, we need to have a space to come on one accord to push one thing. If it's in the space of healthcare, if it's a space of prominent housing, if it's a space of dismantling police structures as they are known now to help benefit trans safety. If it's all of those things, then so be it. And so I think that's the work, like you said, Lala, that happens in your own collective spaces, having those tough conversations with your family. Sit down with your father and mother or your nieces and nephews to understand, hey, if you love me and you know I'm different, then if you meet a stranger who you deem might be different, you still have to respect and love that person too, even though you might not know them. And so that's the work I did within myself to now my nieces and nephews who are going to the world, 19 and 21, have that understanding of that if they see somebody different, that doesn't mean that I have to disrespect them because my auntie is like that, or my auntie thinks different than what society says. And so I have to respect them. So that's levels of where people can start if they think going to Kamala, or if they think that Joe Biden is too big, or the district attorney. It's like, what are you doing in your backyard? What's going on in there? Then go collectively to your judges and your officials and all that other stuff. Because if you can't even talk to your immediate family about some transphobic stuff, what makes you think you're going to have the strength to go to those other individuals who have those places of power to help dismantle those and restructure those in the same community?
That's right.
Yes.
And I mean, to be honest, just to chime in a little bit, you know, this idea of like having folks in office that have the opportunity to just speak to the American public, being a person who's standing at the intersections of transness, of blackness, of Latinx experience, of having the experiences previously of black women, like all of these things. When I'm not hearing or seeing a candidate, whatever that looks like and whatever it is that they're running for, really speaking to the issues that I'm facing or the things that my community is facing, it's really difficult for me to process, like, do I really need to make this choice or do I need to make this decision right now? My interest is not in people being allies. I mean, great if you're an ally and you donate or you sign a fucking petition, that's awesome. But bitch, we need you to be co-conspirators. I need to know that somebody is intentionally already doing the work. I don't want to wait until you get there and then be like, oh, well, I voted for you and now you're not meeting my expectations. Well, the reality is that I'm not hearing or seeing anyone really speaking to the communities that I come from, any of them. Whether that's being black or trans or black women and reproductive health and justice for them. You know, the idea that black women, as an example, within black community experience and face violence disproportionately, in fact, in all black folk, but it's such a lesser conversation, right? Like we can think about Breonna Taylor in this moment, but how many other black women, and I'm talking about both cis and trans, femmes in general and everything else in between. So I don't know that like what I'm seeing is getting me up enough to be like, yes, I'm totally for, you know, Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. And I get it. The lesser of two evils. I think most of us are we kind of stand in that position.
We had 4 years of this.
And I totally understand that, but I also don't want to just feel obligated to do this thing because I'm already in a fearful state. But the end result is that more than likely I'm still going to be in a fearful state because no one is addressing, you know, the real life concerns that my communities are going through. They're just not. There are no co-conspirators. The last time I saw one was fucking Barack Obama. I saw a really extreme significant change for queer plus community entirely, in addition to finally trans folk being included in the narrative of what it means to be a fucking American.
But that was also with Joe too as well. So Joe was the first one that actually spoke for before Obama. So
Joe wrote his coattail.
That was a prime example of like black folks and shifting culture. And me being a part of like that era, and I've been blessed to be part of the political era for a while. Like in the beginning, he had that black bro syndrome. He wasn't with it, but because you know Michelle was having those conversations and he was unpacking his power and his blackness and how he had transphobia, that he was able to start saying. And even when he was signing stuff in the back of his mind, he still was being that black man. Like I ain't agree with this, but he still knew my job as president is to uplift everybody's civil liberties. Like I work at the ACLU, and so that is our job. You know how many stuff come across my plate that sometimes I don't identify, or I'm like, this is what we put all of our energy in, but it's still a violation of someone's civil liberty. And so when we start thinking at this whole picture of like you're here as the president to help everyone who was directly impacted and not just the rich or the people that was your donors, then that's when we shift the thing. And that goes back to what Amar was saying, that we have to show them we vote. I think they don't see us as they see us that we don't vote. We just complain and want all these rights, but they don't understand that we're actually in the ground. Black Lives Matter is what it is today because of queer folks. People are able to be riots like they're doing because Sylvia and Marsha did that already. And the black man that did the Ithaca riots taught Miss Major how to do those riots when she was in Stella Taylor Department.
And black trans women are still leading marches and fucking protests. So like, Queen Angie Jean here is going off every fucking day, every fucking week. This lady is out marching. She's out protesting. She's out speaking. No, you're right. You're right.
Can I just say, like, going back to, and first of all, I love that I'm here because I really do want to listen, and I know my white privilege gets me in places, and I'm always trying to speak up. And even when I'm in meetings, I'm like, where are the Black trans women? And these new projects that I'm working on, I'm like, we need to have Black trans women next to me, with me, producing this, guiding me. I do whatever I can. So I'm really grateful just to be here and listen and learn. But I have to go back to just being in your own backyard. Like, I mentor some of my younger sisters. And I'm like, let's get you an ID. Let's get what you need to vote. And I think we can, you know, it's reaching out to our own family members, but our own community, and really helping in that way. It's so powerful to get someone just their ID just so they can vote, and taking them to vote or showing them how. Because when I was 16 or 21 or 22, I didn't give a shit about voting. Didn't matter what was going on. I just didn't give a shit. I was young and stupid. And I have to like think about that with my younger sisters that I mentor. And I just wanted to put that out there because I really do believe that it starts in your own backyard, and it's those hard conversations. And sometimes you can be the annoying, you know, adult, but it's needed at this time.
Yes, I agree so much, and I'm so glad you said that. And I didn't want you to take the back seat to the conversation because I feel like, you know, I know how you move. And sometimes we talk about privilege, but we don't talk about privilege without a purpose is a problem. Now, having privilege is not a problem. Having privilege without a purpose is a problem. So the thing is you can know that you have privilege, but what are you doing with that privilege to help someone who doesn't have the privilege? And that's why I respect you so much, is because that's how you navigate. And those are the people I try to be around and grow around, because, you know, we can't be so divisive and say that it matters what somebody's color is. And we're fighting this whole hate thing already. So we're going to say that, hey, I don't agree with this person, and you know, but at the same time, I want y'all to listen to me and protect me. Understand me. Give me rights. But, you know, so once we start to understand that we are this tribe. And so back in the day when we were coming into our transness, before trans was a whole word in these streets, we took care of the young tater tots that became thoughts, you know, when they got older. But we took care of the young tater tots.
And the elders.
And we taught them, right. And the elders.
And our LGB counterparts.
Yeah, we taught them how to navigate in the streets. We taught them how to navigate their transness in a way that they'll be safe. We always giving pointers. We say, don't do this, don't do that. Oh, don't make sure you ask this and make sure you ask that. Like, we're always there and dedicated. And so what people really don't understand about our position in this world, our position in their lives, is that we're one of the most beneficial in their lives. No one is going to love like us. No one is going to put in that effort like us, because we still have this thing in the corner of our minds that we're still looking for acceptance. And so in that looking for acceptance, we're always trying to please this cis narrative, this cis straight narrative. And we will share their experiences, their businesses, before we share our own. And so the way our community kind of took back our power is when we started to understand that our Black faces had green money, and our green money, you know, was the same as theirs. And so how we started navigating it is, okay, we're not going to ride the bus in this thing. If we got to sit in the back, we're just not going to ride, honey. Girl, you keep the bus, I'm going to walk. So we come from people who did not just stay in the system and just tolerate the system, and didn't just grit and beg. They sat there and they strategically came together, created coalitions, created groups in order to combat these problems. And so I think we're in that era again, and that's how we have to do. We have to be our brother and our sister's people, because we have some that are so lost in the street, even during this time with everything happening. They're so lost, and so they look at us as people look at us as being disposable. And I feel like we can't really do that with our own people. We can't dispose of them so quickly. That we have to understand that we have more power together than we do do separate. So we just have to, get people together in shape, honey. Now, Miss Thing, get this together. We got work to do. I need you at the group at 3, girl. I'm running the
Shia,
group.
that's
A group.
good.
I need you and bring your friends at 3:00.
But see, I think that's good. But at the same time, when Black people are minding our business, we still have the infiltrators and the people who have white fragility come in and destroy those things. And so the one that would call that out and say, Black people across the board have always been in community, have always been together to build, have always built their own money-making machine, have always been into invention, have always minded their fucking business. But at the same time, on every level, there is someone or some group that comes in and says, oh, y'all getting too small, or y'all getting too organized. Or y'all, we have now. This could be controversial, but I'll be the one to say it. Here in the United States of America, where we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King, and that same state government is the one that orchestrated the assassination. And we say, get me out of here, burn it all down. Every leader that was for the Black community was a stick on their lives by their state government. So this is a nod for Black people to be like, if we just minding our business and we build it, but we still have these for a minute of time to be and to understand what we as Black people and even in our own about us, in our bloodlines and makeup of our genes. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that shit out way. That's an added stress that we live with on a daily basis. And so for me, I think it was the midst of the fire as well as saying, we've done all that, do all that. It's the outside force. Stop it, because once y'all get power, you're not gonna have power.
I mean, no, she's 1,000% correct. Look at the protests. I mean, literally, we're out here getting shot and killed for fucking protesting, for just speaking up, for using your First Amendment right, and trying to be as peaceful as you possibly can, whether that's at a rally, a march, a visual, it all looks the same.
Because when you really break it down, Marcus, it's the actual anti-Blackness. When you look at Kamala in the 2-3 days that she just announced, there's all this is outside sources of saying, oh my God, a Black woman. It's the inside the Black community saying, oh, she this, she that. Oh, and that's all that's valuable and understanding. But still, when you look at what, it's always a given thing. When you look at Obama's side, when you look at now Kamala, you see the anti-Blackness, and yet we still fall for it. Because here, and I understand that people have their own things of what she did. I understand. I'm not negating that. But what I still have to really see and understand as a collective of Black people, we still have some inner work to do to say, yes, she did some fuck. Yes, everybody did. But let's give some space to her change. Let's see if she's gonna learn. And like Lala said, hold them accountable. But still, when you're making your critiques, make sure it's not rooted in the anti-Blackness that you have been indoctrinated into. Make sure your hatred of women is not showing up when you taking these critiques and stuff like that, because you could see that. And I'm very sensitive to that. I'm saying we all in this together right now. And so I have to give them space. I have to give her space to show up the way she's supposed to be showing up and still do my part in this space as well.
Okay, so the reality of it is, I guess my question is, where does the trans community fall within this political realm, because the reality of it is our finish line keeps getting pushed back and back and back. And we're continuously trying to turn pain into power, which we're pretty damn good at. Because one thing I always say, I hate when people call us brave. No, we're fucking resilient, number one, because anything that you can throw at us, we can take that pain and turn it into power. But the reality of it is, again, we're still dying. We're still losing rights. And the reality is the LGBT community is becoming more complicit and silent as we do. And we need to start holding them accountable. It's like you said, yes,
because they're becoming more digestible, more commercial.
But you know what it is? It's almost like they have this mentality where, well, we got what we want. We got gay marriage still. Damn everybody else.
Understand the trans experience.
Yes. And so the reality is, it's like, okay, again, going back to like the Black Lives Matter movement, I really do feel like people jumped on board because it was a trend to them. I believe you had all these trans people coming up on these panels for the month of June that was doing all that work and labor. And then when the trans rights were taken away at the end of June, all y'all asses were silent. Y'all just wanted that pride paycheck, and go on. And I'm at a point now where I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired of our finish line being pushed back.
Man.
I'm so tired of feeling like I have to step over a brother or a sister just to get something when we can uplift and elevate each other. I'm tired of having to feel like that. And I speak with emotion because you know what? That's just how I am. And it's about accountability. It's about everything now is a strategy at this point. You got to learn to play the game. This is a game. You got to know the rules of it, and you got to play them at their own game. Like, that's what it's going to have to take in order for us to be where we are. Because again, the trans community, we're resilient, and I think we will rise out of the ashes. That's not going to be a problem. But the reality of it is, give us our due diligence.
Yeah, I agree with you, Queen Blossom. I just want to say this, like, I think what's really important for us right now is the realization is that we're dealing with someone who has proven that they're racist, someone has proven that they are prejudiced. That's our president. So our main goal, no matter what, is to change that, right? So we have to collectively move in a way to do that. So we have to vote. There's not going to be a perfect candidate, but right now we have lost so much by having this person in office. That's what we're really dealing with, right? And so we cannot do much more until we get this person out of office. Our hands are tied. Our lives depend on it. When it comes to Black trans folks, I mean, particularly in California, we don't build together. We do not fight together. So I don't know how we're going to get Black trans folks from across the world to build and fight together when we can barely do it even in our hometown. So I think it's always been about the one person or the one group that's less evil than the next, right? But it's important for us to have leadership that can be molded. We want leadership that is at least willing to come to the table and let the smaller voice come to that table as well. Yes. We want leadership that's moldable, that can change, that can grow. And we've already seen 4 years of this administration. It has grown more racist. It has grown more bigoted.
You got Karens out here with guns now. They are pulling them out. I done seen too many videos like that.
As a community, as a culture, we have to do better.
I mean, Shayla, it's 7 Black trans people on this panel right here. We can do it. I don't think it's impossible.
Individually, like the one thing about Black trans folks is that we end up being the little mom and pop shop. You know, we don't become the big Black organization. We do not become the big Black Fortune 500 company. But we got a lot of mom and pops. We got a lot of liquor stores on every block.
And churches.
Yes.
And churches.
So I want to talk about
speaking of the churches, y'all.
2 points that you were talking about. So the piece about, you know, we came from this, we've been doing this. But there's still some of our people. I'm gonna use this thing now. Like I said, I'm simply Lala, so we're gonna be really real and blunt. You watch the movie Harriet. Wasn't our people saying, "Don't come back and get us. Why you doing this? You're gonna cause us problems." But when Harriet freed us, they didn't stay on the plantation. There are some that just are not there yet for fear. And so we have to still hold on to those people and try to get them to that place.
Right.
And so if you think we came from a culture, I'm 42. So we came from a culture, we had that like black movement and the black colleges. I remember I had my little hoodie, my jean jacket, Carl Canine, all these things. That black was black. It was like I'm blacker than black and I'm black. We was all black. What happened? Calvin Klein and Versace and Michael Kors and all of them said, "Stop a minute, honey. They ain't buying our stuff, honey. They too black power. So I gotta get P. Diddy and Mary J. Blige and Little Kim to do a Versace ad because it's gonna go viral. It's gonna validate my brand and devalidate blackness." And so that's what happened. We still allow whiteness to devalue blackness.
That's right.
Because it's been a model of like, girl, that's cute. You got some Sean John on, but girl, I got a Versace bag. This is solidified. That's just Sean John. And so our own things that we created, we still diminish it. We still undergrade the black stuff that we've created. We still second rate it as we have to still assimilate to whiteness for a pat on the shoulder. And that goes for Oscars, Grammys, all these things. I remember we had the NAACP, the Image Awards, all those things. Soul Train. Soul Train used to be like the thing I used to love to watch. Now the girls are like, oh, girl, that's bubblegum. That's the EBT Awards. So we downgrade our own stuff.
That sure do.
To
you better talk about it.
Because them systems did not invite us in. And so we also have to do some stuff with ourselves to love our own black selves. We can talk about what they're doing until we say, no, we're going to love on our people. We're going to support our people. We had that error that happened. That's my first point. The second point to what Blossom was talking about is, yes, it's about strategy. And anger without a strategy is just anger without a strategy. And there's never been any consistency. We have to run in the streets, not just when somebody ain't here. We're supposed to be in the streets until this stuff is done with. Right. Until we're free, we're in the streets every day.
That's right.
Every day. It ain't just waiting to a hashtag, oh girl, get my sign, it's ready. It's that time to go. No, honey, every day you should be signing what actions you can do, who I should be calling. There's something we can do every single day. There's always something you can do to push what you want. And also us as leaders, us as people of color, we also have to be honest about our stuff. Because we have to be honest that a lot of these white structures have put us in positions for grants and deliverables and make themselves look good. So you come around when the funders is around, but let you go to the office and say, I want to start this program. It's like, oh no, girl, you ain't got to do all that. Girl, you coming in here talking about you. No, girl, you just come around and you hand us some condoms. This is not what this looks like, girl. And so a lot of our folks are in positions right now. Good, I would never say their names, friends of mine, who are in positions, and to the world, it's they're doing their thing. But the reality is they call me crying every day because they're struggling and they got to make ends meet, which I get. But we have to hold these organizations accountable. They put our sisters in positions with no power. When they put our sisters in positions where they're bullied and tokenized and have to deal with so much verbal and cis shit. And then when they get done with them, they throw them in the streets and you can't even get a recommendation from them because the organization's word supersedes the black trans woman's word. She was problematic. She was these things. They don't leadership develop. And I started a program at ADP around leadership development because I knew that was a gap and it was important. We don't develop. I didn't go to school for policy. But because there was something that came on my plate as an organizer, I took every tool I needed to improve my policy, to improve how things work, to improve how the process works. And so we have to start developing ourselves and stop saying, you know what? Hey, Marquise, I know that you're really good at being a social media influencer. Can we get on a Zoom and tell me with some tips? Hey, Shayla, I know you're good at working on this. Hey, sister, I'm struggling with this. I'm not all be all. How can we get some one-on-one training to better me? That's what we don't do. We're really good at talking about the gaps. We're not really good. If you look around, it is too many leaders that we don't have no institute where leaders can go to learn. I say all the time when I go to trainings, I'm tired of training. Can I go and sit? Can I learn? Can I be fed? Why am I always the one teaching and facilitating and moderating? No, honey. I can learn from the youth. I can learn from the elders. And our elders have to be going along. Our elders don't know about this technology and know how to send emails. So they're out the loop because they didn't know about the rally because everybody said it was on Facebook. Our elders still got phones. And those are my elders who say, girl, I didn't know about it. And I hear the girl, it was on Facebook. No, you got to call her and say, hey, it's a rally today. Do you want to ride? Do I need to come pick you up? We don't do that. There's generational gaps that we just ignore, not just in Black trans communities, in Black communities, period. And that's why the youth is so rebellious and it can become hard-headed. They just ain't our ancestors, but they're fed up. And so their anger is misplaced. I'm not saying that their anger ain't granted, but we got to take that anger and how can we channel that anger for change to better the movement, to better ourselves as people. And so I'm always trying to like meet new people and talk to new people because I always love to learn. Just because honey, I've been the organizer for a long time. You always can learn. There's lessons from the women's workers movement, from the Black Panthers and Lords movement, from the garment district movement. There's so many movements. We have to go back and look at those movements of organizing. There's tools that we can use today. And also, if we gotta fuck up shit and burn it down, I say this all the time to she be cracking up. If there was a Stonewall 2.0 today, how many of y'all got the balls to flip over a car and burn shit down?
Maybe like about 3 of them.
You know? And so it's like
about 3 people.
And ready.
Unfortunately, I'm not talking about violence, but it may have some Black trans folks may gotta fuck up some shit for them to understand.
Yeah,
that's the strategy too. Some people was Malcolm, some people was Shana Sakura, some people was Martin Luther King. There were 3 different strategies, and those strategies got things done. It's like what strategy works for you. What strategy works for you? And because that ain't my strategy, don't mean I just credit Marquise and say, I ain't gonna show up, child. Marquise talking about he gonna go down there and flip over a police car. I can't go to that. No, if that's the strategy, I support you. I can't be there, but I can do court support. I can bail you out. There's something that you can do.
Yes.
So there's always a role that you can do in any strategy.
Oh, yes.
Without you physically being there. And I think that sometimes people have different strategies, like, oh, you too radical. You see how we living every day? What you mean it's too radical? We ain't got time. It's too radical, girl. That's too radical. That's too unapologetic. No, baby, we didn't get here. If Harriet was told that, Harriet still would have been on that plantation.
Hello.
Even when this man told her, you can't go back, you're just a woman. She's still the only Black woman in history to lead an army.
That's right.
Powerful.
That's right.
Only Black woman in history to lead an army.
That's right.
And that happened since.
Well, hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Hold on. Let's be specific. She's the first Black woman. She's the first Black woman in American history.
Thank you, sis. Thank you, my sister.
Oh, come on, Amara.
I stand corrected. Thank you for that.
About America, there are Black women. There are Black women that led slave revolts in Jamaica and Brazil. So we're talking about.
Thank you for the clarity. Thank you for that.
Yes. I just wanted to say two really quick things because unfortunately I have to leave at 3:15. I'm already late for my appointment, but this is too important conversation. 2 quick things. First, for me, the way that I think about it, and maybe it's helpful for everybody else who's like watching, is on November 4th, whatever the result is, can you live with the choices that you made up to that point? Right? And I think that that's a really good question. So if the result is one way or the result is other, can you live with what your role is within that? And sometimes for me, that's a helpful way in figuring out what I should do is I try to project, can I live with the result of of my choices, right? The second thing on that is, so if you participate, how you participate, if you don't participate, if you do participate, can you live with the result? The other thing is, I think that for me, and this is just kind of what, as well, what Mala has said, and I think it's really important in terms of what Blossom was touching on as well, is that, these fights in this country, these fights for freedom are long, and they are hard. And most people who start them don't live to see them finish. And I think that a larger question is like, how do we sustain ourselves? How do we understand that these fights are going to go on for the rest of our lives? They're not going to end. they're not going to end. For as long as you're alive, this fight.
It will be a legacy passed on to you.
For us,
so it will be a legacy that's passed on to you that you will pass on to somebody else.
No, but what I'm saying is that like it's gonna go on for the rest of our lives, so that like these points of and you know, not everyone is able to stay in the fight for 20 years. They may do it for 3, drop out for 3, come back for 3, you know, like, and so for us to also think about how we sustain ourselves and understanding that these fights are long and that we may have, you know, we all may have peaks and valleys in terms of how we participate, how we show up, but we've got a long way to go. Like until Kamala Harris is a Black trans woman on the ticket, I think we got a long way to go. And so like, even if we get a new administration and they pass the Equality Act, we got to implement it. We got to beat back these state initiatives. People are still going to be killing us. How are we going to deal with that? So like, these fights are long. We're trying to rack up as many wins as we can as we go along. And we have to do a better job of like trying to figure out how to sustain ourselves and support each other.
I just want to say something really quickly because Amara is doing something very powerful, and I want to take this moment to uplift my sister. My sister is doing her thing right now, calling out BET for what they have done. And I want to say this because BET actually highlighted me on National Women's Day back in March. They honored me along with Laverne Cox and other powerful Black women for our work in activism. But the reality is, you can't highlight me, but gaslight my sister Amara right here. And you know, we can't be cherry picking which Black Lives Matter, who we support, like, and that's why I'm standing 100% behind you and standing in solidarity, because the reality of it is, going back to what Lala was saying about whiteness and what that looks like, you know, whiteness will creep in like a chameleon, and it will make some of our own people oppress other people within our own little structure. And the reality of it is, I made that mistake once when I was in reality TV about being silent and being complicit. And this time I just want to make sure, and again, I'm not centering myself. I want to make sure that I take this time to uplift you and your great work that you are doing, because it is very important that we discuss at the same time that these Black men that we're going out here protesting for police brutality are also killing Black trans women as well too, and must be held accountable. And we can run, we can hide. I mean, the reality is we can run, but we can't hide from this conversation. And sister, I just commend you on the great work that you are doing. Please continue to say what you need to say. We got you 100%. I love you, my sister. Sending you lots of love and grace and light.
Love and light. Yes. I wanted to know how y'all feel also about the church and state. So that's another thing, another tactic they're using is trans, and another one is religion, Christianity.
I think, let me tell you something. Coming from Mississippi, being born and raised, birthplace of the blues, the Bible Belt South, the reality is the Black church, I had to walk away completely from the Black church, completely.
I thought Memphis was the birthplace of blues.
No, the Mississippi Delta is. The blues actually started in the Mississippi Delta. Yeah, the Mississippi blues. And it traveled to Memphis, and it traveled like to Chicago and stuff like that. But it actually originated in the Mississippi
King kind of caught the wave.
He's from Mississippi. But the thing is, when it comes to like the Black church, it was something I had to walk away from, because again, I think in our when it comes to Black people, I think we're so conditioned to think that to a certain extent that we are still less than, because the reality is, when I think about our ancestors and I think about how much free will we have compared to what they have, when they were beaten, when they were kicked down, when they were like mentally enslaved, when they were taught that they were less than, and how much free will we have today because of them, to be able to make our own choices, to be able to make our own decisions. The reality of it is, when it comes to church, when it comes to like religion and things like that, I took a more approach of being more spiritual, because the reality of it is, again, the Black church feels like a cult to me to a certain extent, because if I'm not able to embrace who I am and my identity with a creator, number one, that knew what my life purpose was going to be before I was put in my mama's womb, that knew that I was going to be trans, that knew that I was going to be doing the things that I'm doing right now, and other people are willing to throw that down the drain. Like, who, first of all, what God are you worshiping? Number one, because the God I know and the one I trust already knows what's up, because he's the one that's making way for me to do this in the first place. So why are you even trying to knock me? The black, I mean, I honestly think that's just kind of like a deep, intricate kind of conversation, especially because of my upbringing. You know, like, it's just, it was something like the black church will dismiss you anyway if you're gay, you're trans, whatever. And I just, I feel like I've experienced a lot of trauma within like the whole ideology of church. And that's something that, you know, of course I worked through or whatever like that, but I'm just, again, learning how to turn that trauma into power. And,
Power.
and it's just,
You
go
ever
ahead,
heard?
sis.
You ever heard if you lead somebody away from God, then their blood is on your hands?
Haven't heard of
So-
that one.
Oh yes, honey.
Mm-mm.
So like so when you go back and you have a conversation with God, and you say, "Hey, I did everything I was supposed to do, but I discouraged a trans person from coming to God. I discouraged a gay person from coming to God. I told them that they had no place there. So while you're sitting up with politics and playing politics, is that politics going to get you into heaven? Is the question. Are you doing God's work or are you doing the devil's work? Because we're supposed to have free choice. And that's what we were given when we came down here. We were given the choice to do what, you know, either go left or go right. We were given that choice. And so what the government is doing now is saying that you don't have a choice. You can't make that choice. We're going to make that choice for you. But yet and still, you're still going to be held accountable with God. So it's like this double jeopardy thing too, where you get punished here on earth. Then they expect that you're supposed to get punished, you know, in the next life.
I think
the next
for me,
experience.
I think for me in that space is that for the individuals who were a part of that pathway with their upbringing, that was your first form and act of resiliency. If you had to endure going to church every Sunday, 3 o'clock service, every Bible study, every, you had to endure a certain type of policing, spiritual and religious policing. And even in the midst of that, I make I statement, I used to sit in that and I knew when the darts were being thrown my way, but something deep within me said, that's not for you. And so whatever they're trying to do to police your existence, to remove your light, to reduce your love, to all that, that's not going to work because you know that's not for you. And so I think for everyone who has had that experience, that was the first initial, outside of your family home, that was the first initial act of resiliency for me to say, yes, you can cast me out every Sunday. You can cast me out every third Sunday Usher Board celebration. You can cast me out on
You can kick me out of the choir.
everything. You can do all of those things.
Is because my hair is different color.
I'm still gonna show up. I'm still going to be in my truth. And so years down the line, you see that the only way that I am existing fully in my totality today is because of my existence with my higher power. Be it she, him, her, they, all, breath, life, love, whatever you speak it as. That's the only way that we as a collective exist. And then if you really do your research, you will understand that trans people have always been spiritual. Trans people have always been otherworldly. Trans people have always been revered as those individuals that, quote unquote, the regular people will come to us to get blessed. And so now that we are in 2020, that you flip it on us to say that we are not deemed to be in that spiritual. I had the conversation with my mother because she's religious, and I said, Mother, at that time in the Bible, they didn't have definition of what trans was. They didn't have definition, but they had unit. but they had that. So you mean that my people was there just like your people. And so if you look at how now all of that is flipped in order to make it a negative thing, in order to make us not see ourselves. But we have always been in and everything. And I think for me, it's always, you have to do your, because your God don't look like my God, because it's a personal relationship. No matter what.
Ain't that it? Ain't that it?
It don't matter.
Right
But
on.
it's the simple notion of live and let live. And you are not the judge and executioner, because that's what I go to that higher power for. If I believe what I believe, you have no jurisdiction over what I do with my life. All I ask of you is to pray for me. And
Right.
you wash your hands of that if you are in that space of totality of understanding what spiritual relationships and religion really mean. And so for me, I don't have to plead my case with anybody in a church setting, in a governmental setting, because I know the only way that I'm here presently is because of my spiritual connection with my higher power.
And your relationship with God is personal. When you pray in secret. Everything that's happening right now is a sham. And it's said that you won't know when the Antichrist come down. Trump could be the Antichrist down here. And it said you won't know when the world's gonna come to the end. We don't know all things. So man try to know everything. The world been coming to the end since for a very long time. Y2K, everything else in between. So they tried to predict when the world was going to come to the end. But I tell you, God has all power in their hands in these streets. And so what I say is God don't make no mistakes. And so we're all here for a divine purpose. Every hair on our head is numbered. God knows everything we do before we do it. And so what I would like to say is that I had to develop a relationship for myself, because how I was introduced to God was very forceful, something I had to do. So I didn't get a chance to have a personal relationship. So we never got a chance to have a real connection with God until I was incarcerated. So after I was incarcerated, then I said I had to put some of my beliefs to the side. They said you're not supposed to question God. I had to question God in this area. I had to question God. I had to say, God, if you're real, I need you to show me something. I need you to show me something, because I'm the type of person that I have to see in order to believe. I have to, have this divine feeling, that something is happening. And so I believe I'm so connected to my spirit that if there is something existing, I'm going to feel it. And so when I was in that cell, I felt it, and I asked for something specific that nobody else could do. I asked them to touch me behind the cell when nobody else could, and I felt that touch. It wasn't just a brush of wind. It was an embrace. It was what I needed. And so I knew then everything was going to be all right. I said, everything's going, if I'm going to make it through this, if everything's going to be all right, I need you to touch me. I need you to hold me. And so after that, I knew there was a divine purpose for my life, regardless of the people in the church that were demonizing me, regardless of family and friends that had disowned me because of my experience. I realized that it was then that God was all I needed. I had heard so many people say a long time ago, God's all I need. God's all you ever need. You never know that until God is the only thing you have. When you fell in hell, when you start to realize that you don't have all power in your hands, it's when you start to say, cry out, oh God. So who are you to tell me about my faith, my personal relationship with God, and tell me that I ain't holy? So when we start talking about the election, we don't need to use God's name in vain.
Google says it will stop.
Yeah, I'm a preacher's kid, so my experience has been like a very long journey, but it's different. My mother's a pastor, so, and it was like a point, and I remember in my childhood, like we went to church every Sunday. That was the thing we did. It was more so everyone in the church oppressing me, because they would come to me all the time saying this. I'm like, girl, I'm showing you what it is. So God didn't tell you that. You see it.
Right.
You go,
Discernment.
yeah, and
when
so
you
yeah,
walk
and
through
so
the
yeah,
look.
and so and what got me in trouble was because, like I said, they always say I had a rebellious spirit. I didn't have a rebellious spirit. I just called stuff out like it was. So one time a deacon came to me talk about how, I had a demonic spirit. I need to change my life and this and this and that. So I had told him, no, he had told like the other little kids in Sunday school, like, stay away from me because I had demonic spirit and they didn't want it to like hop on them or whatever. And so when he, one of my cousins was being funny and was like, oh, the deacon so-and-so said you got a demonic spirit. I said, I guess we got the same demonic spirit because you have a demonic spirit that you can't keep your eyes off of every woman's ass when she walking up and down this aisle and you supposed to be married. So what's that spirit called? And after that, honey, they was like, you got to go and get away from my body. And went to my mother and told my mom. My mom was like, what you say to him? And she's laughing. I was like, I'm just saying he threw it on me. I threw it back on him. Why is my shit greater than yours? You looking at everybody's butt when they go by and flirt with all these young girls. You got a whole
lusting. It's a sin.
Yeah. So where is your sin at? And so it's just like they've been using religion for so long against us for so long. But and so like they maybe just like study the word and just like there's nothing. They like to say Sodom and Gomorrah. It wasn't just about us. It was about everything that was going on in that tabernacle that he did not like. From stealing, the sex, it was everything. It wasn't just gay folks.
The final straw was when they tried to have the angels that he sent down.
Right. And so, like, there's a passage, like, in the Bible that just always grounds me because God, they say, is so all-knowing. Everything he said happened. He said he was going to part the sea. He said he was going to die, and his disciples was going to deny him. And the crow was going to roost 3 times. He said all these things. So he was very particular on what he was going to say. So y'all don't think he would say, it's a passion Bible that says, for God so loved the word that whosoever. That whosoever, whoever. So he would have said, everybody black, everybody that was a man, everybody that was rich. He was very smart. He didn't say everybody but trans folks. So like he was so particular. So that's when I knew that it was people using religion to put words on people that they wanted to put on. Even from like how they treated women, how women are supposed to sleep with your husband when you wanted to, and you're supposed to clean the house and not have no job, and slavery, and all these things. Like, how would slavery condemn a slave owner to sleep with children?
Slaves obey your Bible. Masters.
Yeah, so like that Bible was used to make you go pick cotton and bring your little girl to slave master.
They let us read.
So it's like I know that there is pieces in that passage that we have not touched. That's left in the motherland somewhere that they will not allow us to have.
And why Jesus need to come off our wall.
And like I always say, half of y'all, when y'all get up to heaven, y'all going to be gagging, honey, because he going to be like, I ain't talking to you. You go to that road.
I never knew you. I never knew you.
Because you're using...
And God sit up as a black trans person. The irony. Because you it was kind of hints in the word where it says, let us make man in our own image. So you don't know what's going on in these streets. So like it says that you won't know all things. We like to think we know everything. Can't nobody tell us nothing. And we will believe what we read in somebody's book that wrote down their own thoughts. And when we dissect the Bible, we understand that it was somebody's perception of what happened. It was somebody's account of what happened. But if all of us in this group,
or what they were told,
sound differently.
Or what they were told.
Girl, you see Miss Thane was talking like this.
Half the people,
she was talking so good.
Half the people that condemn you, you can look right in their life, and that's what I get people. Really? So I'm going to hell. So I guess you gonna go with me, girl, because child, that show wasn't your husband or your baby dad that you was with last night. You showing up. You was hitting the blunt right with me. I wasn't an abomination when we were smoking that blunt together.
Having a baby out of wedlock.
I wasn't an abomination when I was babysitting the kids, so you can go twerk at the club. So make me understand what parts are abomination and what parts are not. Because it seems like
it's just against God.
It just seems like it's me right now.
Not just a couple.
Because you're making all these loopholes for yourself, and it's like it don't make no sense.
For is blasphemy of the Holy Spirit and taking your own life, because you can't come back and say, God, forgive me after you take your own life. It's already done. But anything prior to, you can say, God, forgive me. Even on your deathbed, God would have it so that you can say, forgive me on your deathbed and still enter into heaven, no matter what it was that you did. That's the God that we have. The God that God loved the world,
But I think
so loved the world that he gave. When was the last time you gave anything? Gave anybody anything? You love the world so much. We talk about how we love the world. What have you given the world? Except for the hell that you provide the world. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, the only one he had. He gave it to all these people out here that do not account for it, that do not attest for it, do not thank for it. All the things we do and we accomplish, we did those things because we got all power in our hands.
But I also think, Shia, is that when you really look at it on your own time, understand the dynamics of religion and the indoctrination of it all. When you look at Black spirituality, if you go back and do your research on the continent of Africa, the mother we didn't need a whole Bible to understand that we and how we as Black people don't have an entity that looks like us in the spiritual world on the Western side. You have all the other cultures having certain deities and entities that look like them, that represent their culture. But for some strange reason, Black people in the United States of America don't have an image that looks like them to study and practice.
I was.
Thank you,
I got.
Marquis.
I appreciate you saying that, because I sat and I listened to this question with regard to church and state, and I mean, honestly, religion. Well, first of all, oh God, so, you know, this is like, where the fuck do you start, right? Because you're talking about the moment that Black bodies landed on this ground. From the moment that we got here, white supremacy has told us everything that we know, even so much about God. We didn't come here with Christianity. That's not our language. That didn't belong to us. We had to actually learn the text, number one. Number two, the intention from the moment that we got here was to weaponize. So I'm not surprised when I see and hear Black folk further weaponize the text as a way to somehow create this hierarchy, even within Blackness. But that's the nature of the beast that is America. I personally, I can say that I don't identify as African American at all, more than I identify as an African living in fucking America, who happens to be Afro-Cubano and Latinx and all these other things. But
get off this panel.
I'm just
you can't
saying,
be bringing
like,
that to this panel. Don't do us like that.
You asked the question, and I wanted to be thoughtful about that, but I also wanted to really examine what all of that meant. So even when I see those things coming from Black folk who weaponize the Bible as a way to like explain their disdain and somehow perpetuate hate as if that's like what God to them is about, with regards to queer folk, trans folk, it's not shocking to me when I think about that in a larger sort of context, because the entire intention of religion and its purpose literally was about weaponizing. So much so that Black bodies could not even mobilize. They had to rely on faith alone. Literally,
right.
I could not imagine what that must be like. And of course, there are a lot of Black folk who, unfortunately, you know, many of the folks on this panel are woke. We've all been drinking like fucking black coffee and espresso, but some of us are still drinking Kool-Aid, and you got to leave room and give grace.
You know, because
I'm just saying, sometimes people need to water down that Kool-Aid just a little bit slowly to like weed themselves off to the point they start drinking water. You know, but it's one of those things that I'm not frustrated by it. I understand the systemic sort of issue that is attached to that through whiteness, through white supremacy, through systemic racism that is totally indoctrinated again within religion. And so you're right. You think about the Bible, we don't even fucking see ourselves. This description of like white Jesus, which is interesting, you described him as like having wool and feet like brass, you know, skin color in this way.
But
totally
he blue-eyed in these
what?
streets. He blue-eyed in these streets. And he is pale in these streets. Now, I would have no problem with worshiping the white God. I would have no problem. I'd be like everybody say, I don't see color. But being treated like this, being owned like that by my God.
That's just, it's ridiculous.
I mean, that goes back to the state of like, so that's what, okay, so presently, if that's where we're in, for me, I take the teaching, what applies to you from the Holy Bible. I look at it, how it betters my life. I understand that as my connection, my spiritual connection, I have the right to question and talk to my God. I don't have to be hushed off and say, God, whatever. I can say, God, have your way. But I can say, God, what made you do that? Like, can you enlighten me on that? Because that's my, if anybody recognizes that what a personal relationship is, it is going to get total communication and truth. So that means I can come to God and say, God, I am discovered. God, I am delivered. God, I need you to clarify why you took this away from me. And you best believe that God is all along and shows up and shows me with the breath of wind that comes to me when I'm sitting down and it says, that's why I stood away from those individuals. That's why I told you to be quiet when you was in that room. That's why I told you. It's all of those things, but when you have that connection without the instructions or the restrictions of religion, for me, you get more in tune to your divine. I don't have to, I can sit next to a priest, a son, and a prophet, a prophet, a deacon, or anybody else in the same space and understand that no one can tell me away from my understanding of what I truly believe my connection is with a higher power. And I think for that community, we don't have, we've never been taught that full capacity of owning that for your own self. It's always been, this is what I'm going to teach you. This is what you're going to come under. You will not question it. You will go and abide with it. And you will then spread that to everybody else.
Okay. So, a lot of our panel has to leave, so we want to be respectful of time. So, in the last of this, for those of you who can stay around, and I appreciate everybody who came in and who gave us almost 2 freaking hours.
Yes.
So it was supposed to be a short conversation, but I feel like we touched on some things that really need to be touched. And in our final hour, I would like it to make it about us personally, and to just tell us what it is that you aspire to do. What would you like to see in a trans affirming world? Without the transphobia, without the government attacking us, without being killed on the streets, like what is your what would you like to see in your life without all these things that they put in your, these pitfalls they put in your way to prevent you from obtaining your goals, your dreams? For me, personally, I would like to be a mom. And I believe I got a whole lot of love to give. I believe I've been loving on folks for years. I believe I have always played, been that mother role, and even more so that unappreciated mother role, and still being there and dedicated. And so that's my goal, and to be able to have a career where it's not based upon my suffering and my sorrow. So now, I've told my story so many times that now it's just like people are coming at me, and it's like they want your pain. And so it now it's becoming after 3 years of me being out, and we're still saying, "Hey, can you tell that story?" So I was locked up for 10 years, but I've been out for 10 years, 10 years in and 10 years out. Can we talk about what I've been doing in these last couple of years? Can we stop me from being this up and coming artist to now being this respected artist that has now been writing songs for movies and TV shows? In that respect, can I finally be an artist? Can I finally get the type of compensation that I can live on, that I not and not just survive, but actually thrive? Can I be in Hollywood in a way that I have my house on the hill? So now everybody, has their own aspirations. I see people raising money in these streets. They like, hey, I'm finna live my dream. I'm finna live my best life. I'm finna get the things that I need and that I want. And I'm not gonna be silent in those things. For me, what I would love is just to have a fair shot. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. I would just like a fair shocked at it. I don't, and that's with everything in life. I just want a fair shot. I don't want to be seen in my body, however my body changes. However my mind can imagine, that's probably how far it'll go. What I want to be known as and remembered for is my spirit. So I know a lot of people don't really connect with their spirit and don't understand that we won't recognize people outside of their bodies. So God knows our spirit. And so I want people to remember what my spirit brought, what my spirit felt like. And that's how I want to be remembered, not by being in prison, not by the men I dated, not by the clothes I wore, but by my spirit of how much I loved, how much I gave, and how much I still tried to love upon people when the world was hating me. And so that's my aspiration. And so if y'all can give y'all aspiration of what y'all want, it don't matter what it is. You can say, I want a Bentley. Honey, you deserve that Bentley. You should have to, nobody, who's going to say my want is not a need? So that's what we have to stop right there. Stop allowing people to tell us how to live, how to think, who to be, what to watch, how to dance, all these things we're being programmed into this system. How do you want to dance? How do you want to speak?
I think for me, I'll leave you short and sweet. I want to live in a space of peace and prosperity. And that is inner and outer and all. I want to be able to walk down the streets in my own world and not have to worry. My body won't be filled with anxiety of if somebody will kill me just because I get their attention, just because I am a light, just because I am all of the things. I want to live in a world of peace and prosperity. And in that peace and prosperity is where I can evolve through all things. And so of course I'm a singer, of course I'm a songwriter, of course I'm an entertainer, of course I'm all of those things. But when you break it all the way down, I want to just be able to live in peace and prosperity, because all those things coming to me is just those added outside things that are distractions and might halt or hinder me getting to those places. So that's my information.
I think it's completely different. I don't know. I kind of completely think it's different for me because I'm one of those type of people where I'm very empathetic to other people. Ironically, my Mars is in Aquarius, and Aquarius people always think about other people anyway. And I'm on this spiritual journey, and I've definitely been spiritually awakening, and to do it so publicly, where I got to the point where I was like, I don't give a damn about what people think of me, has been crazy because becoming a professional tarot reader and implementing that into my platform has been a lot more powerful than what people think. A lot of people did not know this, but I was kind of doing underground tarot. So basically, what I did was from some of our those secret trans Facebook groups that were going on Facebook, I actually spent 3 hours one night giving 15 of our trans brothers and sisters tarot readings, not as a way of healing. I like to use healing into it. So basically, when I do tarot, I implement life coaching skills to give you the tools that you need to work on yourself personally, so you can get ready for the world that doesn't want to see you exist. And to secretly have been doing that for trans people for a while, until I finally just came out and was just like, this is what I've been doing. It's so powerful because I see the change amongst our trans siblings, and I see them wanting to strive for what they deserve to have. And for me, that's part of what the work looks like. No, I don't have a nonprofit. No, I may not have the biggest platform, but I have a big heart to care about somebody else and to be able to push them to do what's best for them. The problem becomes when you're an empath, being the sponge, and you're not always thinking about yourself. And so now I'm having to learn to set healthier boundaries for myself, so I can make sure that I'm in alignment to be able to help other people. I believe it's just hard for me as an activist, as a leader, because when you're called to do this work, you're really called to do the fucking work. And sometimes you have to represent and stand up for people who don't even like you. And the reality is, I don't care if you like me. You don't have to like me for me to stand up for you. That's how selfless I am.
But what is it that you want? We talked about people this whole broadcast.
But what I
we want to know what Blossom wants.
But what
out of
Blossom
life.
wants,
Tell these cis transphobic people what you want out of life.
Yeah, so
not just serving them, but what do you want?
I want out of Blossom. And see, I was getting to that. The reality of it is, what I want out of Blossom, what will satisfy Blossom, is to see our community rise. This is what Blossom wants. This is what's gonna make Blossom fulfilled. This is what's gonna make Blossom alive. To see other people who fight the same struggle as me, who have to get up every day, walk down the street, living the same life, living the same struggles I'm living, be able to thrive and do what the fuck they want to do. That is what power looks like. And guess what? When we encourage each other to do that, guess what? That'll help fuel me too. I want to see all of us. I'm sorry, again, my Mars is in Aquarius, so I just think about other people. You know, for those of you that know astrology.
Yeah, I'm a Pisces. I'm the same way, but the thing is that's not healthy. You know, you got to have a healthy dose of self-care. Like, what are you doing for yourself? And it cannot be centered around other people. Like, the world ends tomorrow, and you have nobody to read tarot to. What do you want in life? What would you want? What would make you happy?
What would make me happy? Oh, honestly, that I live a full, healthy life. Period. That I live. I just want to live. I don't want. I want to live, and part of my purpose is helping other people. What I'm called to do on this earth is to be of service. And I'm sorry I keep going back to that, because that is
you do, and I am not for serving these cis folks my whole damn life. I've been doing it. I've been putting myself in position trying to.
Girl, not cis folks.
Well, you know, I feel like that.
It's like pause.
The energy that you're giving is the energy I want from them. I want them to know how they can make our lives a little bit better. You know, because we've been trying to make their lives better. We've been trying to make them comfortable in spaces. We've been trying to educate them. We've been mothering their kids. We've been babysitting their men. You know, and babysitting their women.
Is that what y'all call it now? Y'all be babysitting?
Babysitting. You know, because you gotta send that child back home.
Yeah.
It's not a man. It's not a woman. You gotta send that child back home because they playing in these streets. So, you know, it's you know.
I feel you, sis.
You got Build-A-Bears. We waste years and years of our lives with that Build-A-Bear complex. We can fix this person.
Yes.
Oh yeah, if I change it up a little bit, get him to go to church a little bit, and give him a little haircut. You know, he already cute. You know, and then I can, you know, we can walk around, and and everybody gonna know we stocking it in these streets. It's not even about love. It's about, hey, I got a man and you can't get him.
Yo, Lala. I'm so sorry, Shia.
We already back on center and sticky. Get away from these affirmations for our community.
Jesus.
I was gonna go last, but I wait till everyone else goes. It's amazing I'm having this conversation because behind me is like my spiritual altar. So know that all of your things that you're saying, and when I get done with this cast, I will light incense to solidify the prayer and do everything. I'm a very spiritual person. But for me, I mean, what's the talk about this all the time? It is me actually owning a home and owning property, like owning acres of land for me to do what I want, have crops, have a space for my community to come.
Yeah, I can't come to my house. I'm sorry. I just want my house for me. I give y'all so much, but y'all can't come to my house.
Okay, remember you said that too. Remember you said that. Remember that. Don't come to my house either. But you know, and also like I have aspirations of like just being a mother and a parent. I've always wanted to do that, and I think that I love seeing so many trans parents today. But because of life, I've done things to my body where I'm not able to have children in that way. And doctors didn't tell me these things. Doctors didn't say this would happen. And I just put in my head that would never happen for me. And then now to see that those are possibilities and that those doctors just want me not to produce children. That was a way of violence. Yeah, you can't have kids. They were not, telling us what we could do to preserve having kids and stuff like that. But I just, I want to have my own just home, something I can leave to somebody, and also leave this work, like actually leave it and like leave it in a good place, but actually be able to wake up every day and realize I can write a check and show up and be okay with that. That I can show up when I choose to show up. And one thing that always pisses me and makes me so upset is, yes, I love Miss Major and I'm blessed to know her, but it pisses me off that she's still got to come out. That she doesn't have her own mansion somewhere. She doesn't.
That's what it's gonna look like for all of us.
Right.
That's what Blossom. That's what Blossom is going to be.
Right. And so
that the community. That's going to be Lala.
That template for me let me know that that's what it is. There's never any breaking free, and not to diminish what she does. I love the fact that she shows up and all that, but that part of me feels like if that's my elder, I wouldn't want my granny out here. And my grandma passed away in 98, but I wouldn't want my grandma still on the front lines. At some point, all that she's done, she should have her own villa somewhere, doing whatever she wants to do. And so that's what I want. And also, even a legacy, I would love to have an institute for trans people, where you can go, where you're getting educated by trans people, everything you need to function and to be whatever it is you want to be in life. So I want someone.
Y'all heard it here first. So y'all want to fund this? We ain't just talking in these streets.
Lead the media training, lead the arts, lead journalism, lead political strategy, like just an institute where you can go, because I wasn't afforded those things, for you to go and learn and be better you, because when you go to college and go to those places, you're not getting things about yourself. But a place where you can go and be a free thinker and go back in that imaginary place that we get denied to go to, and think what you want to be within the world in a safe place that folks that look like you and can understand you. And I feel like that's missing. But also to wake up one day and just watch TV where everything we do is not playing our trauma or playing a stereotype. Like I want to see trans Cosby show. I want to see I've been telling you the whole time, I want to see a badass Charlie.
Please make Rudy dark skin.
I want a trans Charlie's Angels where we assassins and fucking up shit. I want to see us be villains. I want to see, rom-coms that are really authentic and not cheesy and like trying to make us be what the world wants us to be, but like authentically us and our arts doing what we can do. That's what I want to see when I turn on TV. Like real. When I watch TV, I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's the reality of us. Yeah, we walk balls. I love Pose. It's amazing. Orange is the Black was amazing. Yeah, but girl, we know the girls be in prison, but I want to see a love story. I want to see us being assassins and like tearing things up. I want to see us just doing like other people doing the arts. I want to see us actually in music videos that are not cheesy. That actually
they focus on our suffering.
Yeah, all that. I just want us to live in that space where it's like when you go to pitch something, it's not like, well, I don't think they're gonna go for that. More so, how can I help that? How much money are you gonna need? Those type of things where it becomes a part of life where it's not, wait, that's the trans thing. We gotta talk to the producers. I don't know how where it just becomes, it is what it is, and that's what I envision, for the world. I envision a world where us as trans folks are not separating each other by our gender and our race and all those things, where we should know better to do those things. And I want to come into a space and be like, well, you're not making space for me, or like, oh no, that's a trans woman of color thing. That's a trans masculine thing. No, we're just like, this is what happened. This is wrong. This is how we fix it and move on. I don't want to be in a world no more where we're boxing each other in. And we're separating and we're fighting on who's the most trauma, who died the most, who poured the most. No, I don't want that anymore.
The oppression Olympics.
I don't want that anymore. We're just like, oh, we're not having this no more in our community. Let's put it in the, nip it in the bud. I want to be able to turn on my TV and see trans people authentically in sports. Right. I can watch the NBA championship or a football game,
and I want to see some fat people on TV.
Yeah, or the Olympics.
Why do everybody got to be pencil thin? Where the fat people at? God damn it, where the dark skinned people at? Where the black fat people at? Where's my representation at? Where the loudmouth heifers at? Where the, you know, I want to see all the representation and not just like these cutesy little, yeah, I just had this amazing experience and it just feels so good right now. And you just make me feel so adored right now, Arthur. You know, I don't want that. I want real representation. I want the person who's gonna check her and be like, girl, are you a fucking drama queen. I want the dynamics. I want real life is what I want to be represented in TV. And I've been talking this to Hollywood since I got here. Evidently they heard me and they start having the conversations I've been having with them. So
I want a world where we get together in joy and not just in pain.
Yes.
But we don't get together and we're at a rally. It's like, oh my gosh, I ain't seen you in so long. And it's like, oh, we can't really be happy because we're mourning. But I want us, when we get together for joy, it's like, okay, we're having a picnic this year. We're having this year. Not just in pain we gather. Whereas it just becomes a part of our life where we gather to celebrate joy and not just in pain.
Like, we need family reunions. We need to start planning queer family reunions. We always call each other family. Why don't we just, we're so grand and so fabulous in these streets. Why don't we start putting some monies together and start getting some spaces for our queer family reunions? Create stuff like that. And so, like, I know a lot of people didn't want to join the conversation because, like, you know, hey, who's sponsoring? Is HRC sponsoring it? Is GLAAD sponsoring? No, this is a Black trans woman putting something together.
Sure. You know
Let's put something together.
Sure. You know what?
Can you be a part of that? It's a Black trans woman. And she ain't got all the followers in the world. She Black as hell. She fat. She ain't pencil thin in these streets. So she's not selling you that illusion. She's giving you her. So can we for a minute? Can we for a minute?
Yes.
Can we celebrate that fat Black woman for a minute?
Yes.
In a couple of episodes. Can she be the lead lady? Instead of the best friend? Or
We got 2 more affirmations.
2 more affirmations.
You look, my Virgo kicking in. Come on now.
Come on, Virgo sun. Girl, I'm a Libra sun, Gemini moon, and a Capricorn rising. So that Capricorn is your boy.
Well, I'm a double water, so I'll be crying all the time. Yeah, I have to agree with you. I want to be a mom.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think, like, my mission is, one thing that I would love is for my trans brothers and sisters of color to be safe, to be able to love who they are and express who they are and be safe doing that. I've heard a lot in this conversation that, you know, you guys don't see enough of yourselves. And even in the space where I'm creating this brand called She's So Vegan, the majority of people that are vegan are people of color, but we don't show it. They don't show it. And so I made it a point to, from my social media directors, all of the people that are working with me, for me, and including being the face and also the writers that are of color. Like, I feel it's my responsibility as a white woman, a white trans woman, with my friends, to make sure that people of color are seen and heard behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. And even with producing my project with Lionsgate, you know, they're like, we really want you to, like, we already know that we want to have people of color, but I said, if I'm going to have a co-host, I want to make sure that woman, that trans woman or trans man, is very powerful and almost like smarter and more powerful than I am. I want them to see that. I don't, you know, it's so easy for a room full of white people to say, yeah, we'll get someone of color next to you. But it goes deeper than that. It's like, we need to have someone of color that is a teacher and that is teaching me as we're going on this journey. So I think it's really important. That's just kind of like what I'm manifesting right now.
I always let them know I'm available.
I got you,
honey. But, you know, I always say yes to these things. Shia, thank you for inviting me and including me, because I really do want to learn and grow and be there as an ally in every way. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
It's an honor to have all y'all here, and I'm so gracious actually that everybody accepted, and you know, and we all have reservations about doing this social thing, and you all are already so vocal already, and already so visible within our community, and doing so much for our community, and for me to ask for something, I don't want to be thoughtless, and knowing what our community already go through already. And
I feel like these are more realer. Like that's why I said I wanted to be simply Lala, because when you wear them simple hats, there's talking points for everything. Like yes, there's me in there. Don't negate that because I negotiated, but there's a certain way that you're and I just like to be able to be real with my people that I see, my siblings, and just let's be real with each other. Like I ain't gotta wear that hat right now. Like so I'm more keen to come to conversations like this versus stuff that they want me to do is very much okay, well how much you got? Because you want me to put on this hat, you want to pay me to be fake with you for a minute and make you feel okay with my drama. But
make you comfortable, right?
So like
entertain
this,
you with my trauma and my drama.
Because I also get to hear other people's struggles because that also helps my work. Because I can say, well, I was on this thing and I heard this, but also to hear that like I'm not alone in some of the stuff that you're dealing with, because sometimes it's very much you begin to think like it happens so much like, is this really happening on the rate that I'm thinking it's happening, or is it just me? And so you hear other people from different regions, talking about it. It just like helps out. And even just like this movement of like us having more intersectional conversations, like even with our trans brothers, like seeing that as been powerful and seeing them stepping up to create narratives for them to acknowledge their toxic masculinity, and even for us to acknowledge how what we've done to the world, we portray that on the trans men the ones that we choose.
Yes.
And so like we also have to unpack all of it because we're not all knowing and we're not perfect. And so like these conversations help with that.
Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. First of all, Shia, again, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that shared their voice and shared their experience and spent 2 hours with us in this way on a Sunday. So this was actually really nice. For me, I would say, what is something that I want? I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been seeing this this language of like Black trans liberation. And quite honestly, I started thinking about that just in a grander sort of way of like liberation and freedom, obviously for all of us, but honestly at the same time too, as a Black trans person, like liberation and freedom without having to do this, without having to explain, without having to have panels, without having to have marches and rallies and protests and explain to people why trans femmes engage in sex work, having to explain why some Black trans mass folk sell drugs. Let's be honest, right? Like we all have all of these things that like we're walking around with just because of the layer of transness that doesn't allow us to live an authentic life that is centered around thriving versus just surviving. So for me, the thing that I want the most for myself and for everyone is liberation, is freedom, is not ever having to explain again.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
That's it.
I love it.
Wow. Yes.
Thank you, Shia.
Amazing. I thank y'all all so much for
Thank
giving
you,
2 hours of your time. So young trans people at home, if you don't know that you are loved, honey,
my brunch time.
If you don't know that you are loved, that these people showed up for you, that's what I wanted to show. I wanted our youth to be inspired and encouraged. Oh, you better see. I didn't drink. See, we've been on here a whole nother hour. I've been amped up. See, I didn't drink anything. I didn't even reach over and get my coffee. I went to the store to get.
I missed my brunch. So I had to bring the brunch to the call.
I want our youth to know that they are loved and that we are here. And the reason why we are so visible right now is we're doing it for you. We're doing it for ourselves too, but we're doing it mostly for you. Because a lot of us could have slid back into stealth. But the thing is, it's so important for you to see our faces, to know that we're not going anywhere. And yes, you may see us fall down, but you're going to see us get back up.
And rise.
You're going to keep and rise. You're going to continue to see us fight. And so we're hoping and praying that you'll continue that legacy and continue that fight. Because we learned that fight from our trans sisters. Our transcestors. I said our trans sisters. That too. Our transcestors. You know, and I want our youth to carry on this fight, to remember us, to remember the mark that we left, because we are not being amplified. Our messages are not being amplified. They're being silenced. So the T is silent as hell in this movement. The T is silent as hell in the Black Lives Matter movement. The T is silent as hell in the LGBT community.
Girl, the alphabet soup. The alphabet soup. Because they just gonna keep adding the alphabet soup.
And you know what? You know,
we are the alphabet people. We should be ashamed of it. Let's claim it, honey.
Right. Yes, we are. And the alphabet means that nobody get left behind. Yeah. The alphabet means nobody get left behind, that we're always including people, that our whole movement stands for inclusivity.
Right.
So that is our claim to fame. So when they're trying to say, oh, they're trying to start a new world order and their agenda, our agenda is make sure that nobody get left behind. Those kids that you try to throw in the trash can, the kids that you try to that were disposable to you, the kids that you abuse and misuse. We're trying to recover those kids and build them back up to their greatness. Because we were told, a lot of us were told that we weren't great because of us being into trans. So we were told we would never be anything. So for people to see us out here in these streets is so very important, because it lets them know that it's possible for them. We didn't have no possibility models in our time.
And that's the thing
that looked like us.
That's the thing that you saying and leaving off on it, is that who's to say that in 2080 someone will pull this thing who doesn't know anything about themselves, be a vast of different trans people, but all on one speaking education, and then what would that do to that person? That's why I always, when I take up these things, that this is a resource that sometimes who don't know this or who are understanding themselves will pull this up whenever they can and see this. Like, oh, this is honestly, and then what does that to their lives? So I thank you for the time and thank you for the fellowship.
And Gia wanted to apologize. She couldn't make it. She couldn't make it into the panel. She just, you know, she was thinking like a lot of people were thinking, I'm not political, and I didn't really have time to really explain it to people, like, you know, what we were going to do, and that I'm not political myself, but I just have strong feelings about a lot of things, especially mistreatment. When it comes to mistreatment of us in our community, I have strong feelings about it, and I can talk to anybody about it. I can go and debate with the best of them about it. So yeah. So love and light, everybody. Thank you so much.
People, vote.
Yes,
vote.
Vote Biden.
Bye, love.
Bye.
Vote Trump out. Love and light, everybody. Thank you for watching, and please share the broadcast.